special celebratory activities around that date. Kiwanis Club of Kingston is 61 years old, so that's how long Kiwanis has been in Jamaica. But if you talk about the wider Kiwanis movement, it's much older. And you will hear later on that the Kiwanis Club of Barbican is celebrating their 10th anniversary next week, Tuesday, the 21st. So a lot of things are going on, so just look out for that. In terms of just general information, as Kiwanians, we know that we are all one family, and we celebrate together, and we also mourn together when there's losses. And I just want to take the opportunity to note the passing of DLG Deborah Manning and her brother's mom, who passed away last week, as well as past Vice President Anthea Donville, who lost her mom also. So condolences to both of those Kiwanians and by extension to their families. May their moms who passed away rest in peace. And we mourn with them and we're sure that they lived full lives while they were here. So on that note, I want to transition into some upbeat news. This evening, we have a special presentation by Dr. Roger Hunter, All You Ever Wanted to Know About Strokes. It's a very comprehensive presentation. It is a repeat of a presentation that was done before, but as DP Stu will explain to you, we thought that the information in this presentation is very relevant. Strokes is something that affects everybody, both young and old. Unfortunately, I believe it affects men more than it does women. And I'm sure the doctor will touch on that in his presentation. Maybe women are better able to understand stress and well-being more than men, but that's a debatable topic. But we are going to have a presentation this evening about strokes, and it's chock full of information that you will find helpful in your daily life and in the lives of your loved ones. So on that note, again, thank you for joining us. But the real task of welcoming our fellow Kiwanians and our guests, I'm going to pass on to IPP Newton, who is now on the platform. I see you, Newton. So can you now take on the duty of acknowledging our friends and our guests this evening?
Thank you, President Stephen. And good evening, everyone. Please forgive me, I'm on the road, couldn't make it back to base, so I'm joining you from on the road. But you know it is, wherever you're joining Kiwanis from, whether in your office, on the road, or in person, it's something that you don't miss. This evening, because I know everybody wants to hear about strokes, who cause it and who get it. So let me just jump right into the welcome. Is there any Kiwanis club outside of Jamaica with us this evening? Any club outside of Jamaica? Okay. How about any Kiwanis club in Division 25? I know we have 39 of us online, 40 of us online now, but unfortunately from the instrument I'm using, I can't see how the person. So I'm dependent on you to respond to me.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Carleen Moore from the Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay. And I'm happy to be joining with you this afternoon, of course, to learn about this very important topic.
All right. I tell you, Carleen Moore, I'm happy that you have joined us, and I'm happy that you have kicked off, because I was kind of feeling lonely, nobody answering me. So we're happy to have you. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and friends. I am DLG Joe from the Kiwanis Club of Hopewell. I'm not sure if anybody else is here, but I'm happy to be here. I always enjoy joining Kiwanis Club of New Kingston, because I have a good friend here, or at least friends, but my good friend DLG, Willie Reason. We always enjoy the company of each other. Hi, Willie, how are you doing?
Not too bad, my friend. Okay. Good to see you.
I especially joined this club this evening because I want to hear about getting strokes. Although at my age, I shouldn't be getting strokes. But I'm happy to be here and look forward to a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, DLG Joe. And, we're always happy to have you. And might I say, I haven't seen you in a long time, man. You have not been joining us as often as you usually do.
Well, sometimes you have to take a low profile, but I'm happy to be here this evening.
Okay, I'm happy you not follow out you and DLG will follow out. Any other club in Division 25? Okay, how about Division 24? Do we have any Kiwanis Club from Division 24 with us this evening? Okay, yes, let's move on to... Oh, go ahead, please, go ahead.
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians. This is President Allison from the Kiwanis Club of Port Antonio. Glad to join you guys.
Glad to have you, President Allison. Glad to have you always. Okay, any club from Division 23 East?
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians. This is Chairman Winston Watkins from EKPR, and I am glad to be here. But it is unfortunate because my father is currently going through his second stroke. So when I saw the flyer, I knew I had to be here. I lost my mother last year because she had a stroke. So I guess stroke is in my family. So I definitely have to hear what Doc has to say. Thank you.
Okay. Well, sorry to hear about all of that, the stroke in your family, Chairman. But I can tell you, Dr. Roger Hunter is one of the top neurosurgeons around, and you might hear something this evening that will prevent your dad from having another stroke, and even help you from having your first one. So I'm glad you were able to join us. Any club in Division 20?
Thank you.
Oh, okay, sir. Any club in Division 23 West?
Good evening, fellow Kiwanians and guests. This is P.E. Denzel from Kiwanis Club of Mandeville. There are currently 8 of us online. We're looking forward to an interesting and informative meeting, and thanks for your invitation.
Thank you and your delegation for joining. And I guess Mandeville is so cool, you people don't get stroke up that side because you have a nice easy climate, eh?
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Any other club in Division 23 West? All right. Let's move to our division now. Division 23 Central. Do we have any club in Division 23 Central with us this evening?
IPP Newton, this is President Claudine from the Kiwanis Club of West St. Andrew. Always a privilege to be joining your club's meeting. I have in our company this evening, in our delegation, there are 7 of us, but specifically our nominee for Lieutenant Governor-elect for 25-26, DP Rose Vaz. It is always a privilege to join you, and we look forward to Kingston Club's support at DCM in a couple of weeks.
You know, we're always with you, Prez. And it's always great to have you and your delegation with us. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. You're welcome, sir.
Okay, good. All right. Any other club in Division 23 Central?
Good afternoon. This is VP Omar from the Kiwanis Club of St. Andrew. There are 3 online. We're happy to be here today to hear about stroke. At my age, I shouldn't be having stroke either, but happy to be a part of the meeting.
No, man, happy to have you, because the important thing is to know when you learn about stroke, you know how to look and see stroke coming and run in the other direction, right?
Definitely.
So we're not learning about stroke in order to go hug it up. We're learning about stroke in order to be able to run in the other direction when we see it coming.
All right.
So thank you and your delegation for joining us.
Yeah, man.
All right, great. Any other club in Division 23 Central with us this evening?
Good evening, IPP Newton. How are you doing?
I am great, thank you.
Great. I am President Eurydice from 23 Central Surrey Online. And at this time, we have a delegation of two, myself and IPLG Desmond. So thank you for this invitation, and I look forward to learning about the signs of stroke. Thank you.
Thank you, President Eurydice. Thank you for always being there. You're one of the persons we can always depend on, so really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Any other club in Division 23 Central? Okay, do we have any SLPs with us this evening? Any SLPs? Or do we have any guests of a Kiwanian? Please introduce yourself if you're a guest of a Kiwanian. No?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Damian Perkins here, former Circle K from while I was in undergrad. Robert Thomas, who is my church brother, sent an invitation out to us, so I decided to join when I saw the topic.
All right. Well, you know, you started out right, but you have slipped. So Robert is my friend, so I'm going to call Robert and ask him why is it you're not back in Kiwanis. But I'm glad you're with us this evening.
Good afternoon.
Thanks. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I did not hear 23 East, and so I'm just going to jump in here and say thank you for the invitation. I'm Chair Latavia from the Kiwanis Club of 23 East Professional St. Andrew Online, representing our club president and a CK Library Prize. Currently, we have three club members, hoping to have more joining shortly. We really are looking forward to a wonderful meeting, or a really exciting meeting, but really one that is knowledge filled.
All right. Thank you and your delegation for joining us. And yes, we are always happy to have you and have you with us. It's an open invitation, and we do try to educate, because there are some things you get educated about how to run towards it, some things you get educated how to run away from it. I see we are up to 52 and climbing, so I know it's going to be a great evening. Thank you for joining us.
Well, good evening. My name is Leslie Johnson. I'm calling from Canada. I'm a guest of Stuart Spencer, a lifelong friend.
Okay, Leslie Johnson, really happy to have you, sir, all the way from Canada.
Yes.
And I'm sure after this evening you are going to be joining us more often. Really happy to have you.
Yes, I'll do that. It's cold up here, so we are locked inside. So.
Well, I tell you something. You will find that the meetings at the Kiwanis Club of Kingston are always warm. So you know, when the cold hit you, you know where to go.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining. All right. Any other guests? Any other person who joined this evening? You weren't invited by a Kiwanian. You're not a Kiwanian, but you just heard about us. You like the topic. You're here. It's a good place to be on a Tuesday, and you're with us. Please open your mic and let us welcome you. No? All right. Well, we're now up to 55 and climbing. I'm happy to have everyone who is on this evening. Believe you me, it is going to be worth your while. And as we say, it's an open invitation. We meet like this every Tuesday at 7. So until I see all of you again next week, Wednesday at the same time, it's back to President Stephen.
Thank you, IPP Newton. You mean next week, Tuesday? I think you said Wednesday.
Next week. Oh, I said Wednesday. Oh, I meant Tuesday.
Yes.
No, but the Sarge heard that, so it's okay.
Okay. Thank you nonetheless. Very good introduction, IPP Newton. I'm going to ask Secretary Willie if there's any apologies for absence. Are there any apologies from our members?
No, just apologize on behalf of Treasurer Orville. Of course, we know he's in the Grand Cayman.
Right.
And DP Richard Reese, who's away in Florida
Yes.
for medical reasons.
Okay. Okay. Understood. IPP Newton, I'm back to you in case there's any members who have a special occasion this week.
Thank you. Thank you, Prez. From my record, and it may be lacking, but I have DP Arturo Stewart celebrating his birthday on January 15, which I think is tomorrow. So remember, people, just give him a call and say happy birthday, DP Arturo. I don't have anyone else in my record, but if there's anyone online right now, whether you're a Kiwanis Club of Kingston member or not, and you're celebrating a birthday, an anniversary, or some special date, please go ahead, open your microphone, let us know so that we can celebrate with you. Anyone? Oh, I see DP Rose's birthday is tomorrow. Okay. Well, happy birthday when it comes, DP Rose. Anyone else? Okay. Well, let me close my microphone and my video and pass the meeting back to President Stephen.
Thank you, IPP Newton. And happy birthday to all those members who are going to celebrate it tomorrow and for the rest of the month of January. Next, we have on the agenda Kiwanis Education. And we're going to ask IPLG Desmond, dual member, along with online, to share with us some information that we might find helpful about Kiwanis International. Over to you, IPLG Desmond.
Thank you, President Stephen. Good evening, fellow Kiwanians, SLP members and guests. This Kiwanis Education is on the annual general meeting. And this is from the standard form for club bylaws. One meeting per year between January 1 and May 15 is designated as the annual meeting for club elections. At least 30 days prior notice of this meeting must be given to members. At least 1/3 of club members in good standing constitute a quorum and not 1/3 of the membership. That's 1/3 of those who have paid their dues and so on, so in good standing. No less than a majority of the members present, voting, and in good standing is required to approve all business of the club, and in this case, the elections. At least 14 previous days' notice of any pending vote must be given to the members. So for your slate of officers and directors, at least 14 days prior notice must be given with their names and the positions for which they've been nominated. Any qualified consenting member may be nominated either in advance or from the floor, according to the club policy. And before nomination, ensure that the person being considered is in good standing and is willing and able to serve in the capacity. If the person elected is not in good standing, the decision may be null and void, requiring new elections. If after election a vacancy arises for the position of president, the president-elect, the IPP or the VP will fill the vacancy subject to club policy. For the position of the IPP, if there's a vacancy, the most recent president, whether it is 24, 23, 22, as the case may be, the most recent president will be able to serve who is willing and able to serve will fill the vacancy. For all other officers and directors, New elections will be held within 60 days, provided at least 60 days notice of the meeting and nomination is given to members. If the secretary is appointed, the president, and of course, if there's a vacancy in the position of the secretary. So if the secretary is appointed, the position and the president will appoint someone to fill the vacancy subject to the approval of the board. And that's it for Kiwanis Education, President Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, IPLG Desmond. AGM, a very important part of not just Kiwanis, but any entity's administration. So I hope people took the relevant information from your presentation. Now, Kiwanians, we come to the feature event, the actual presentation by Dr. Roger Hunter. And to give it some context and to do the introduction, I'm going to ask our chairman, DP Stuart Spencer, to share with you what is to be expected in the presentation. DP Stu, over to you.
Yes, President Stephen. Are you hearing me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. Fellow Kiwanians and guests, it is my pleasure this evening. Well, it's kind of mixed. Let me put it this way, because a little over a week ago, a friend of mine who, went to school at the same time, and he passed away. And when I heard the details, I understood that he had a stroke, and further information conveyed that he had bleeding on the brain. And it struck me, I said, let me go back and listen to this presentation by Dr. Hunter. And it's surprising how when you hear stuff, even though it's good information, it's amazing how much you forget. Because I can tell you this, the one thing I really remembered from that presentation was about hydration. And in fact, since that time, what I've been doing is making sure, in fact, I try to drink some water before I go to bed every night, because he mentioned something about when your blood gets thicker, obviously that is something that's conducive to a stroke. But a lot of the other stuff I didn't remember. And I said, it's timely that we play this again, because so many persons, you hear about it every other day. And even some of our guests tonight have spoken about their personal experiences with family members. And so tonight I'm playing, this was a presentation done by Dr. Hunter in July 2022. So it's about 2.5 years ago. And what we really want to, and I won't spend a lot of time with the introduction of him, because I think he's pretty well known. He's a consultant neurosurgeon and a spinal surgeon. And some of you might remember during the COVID crisis, he had what you could probably say, some controversial views that were challenged. But he's a very outspoken person. He's very knowledgeable, and he really knows what he's talking about. And probably he would prefer if I also mention that he's a JC old boy. So enough of the introduction, and I'm going to move into the presentation. And I'm gonna have to start sharing my screen. So give me a second. Let me set this up. So what we did is we didn't bother with the introduction that was done at the time in July 2022. What I've just said will supersede that, and we'll go straight into his beginning and opening remarks.
amongst the fellowship within the Kiwanians and within the humanity as a whole. I suspect your numbers, your membership, your viewership is not only amongst Kiwanians tonight. It might also have non-Kiwanians. To make a slight little correction in terms of the first, I think it's important to comment that what we did, we sent, and we're grateful that the Glina RGR Group Star found it, reached out to me to as a point of interest from their perspective. What we were recently first enabling was the axiom guided awake brain surgery, and that's a relatively new technology to Jamaica. So not awake brain surgery per se. In fact, you will be pleased to know that awake brain surgery has been around for thousands of years, over 3,000 years, originating in Africa, and in fact is still practiced within Africa. But using technology, particularly the electromagnetic guided axiom system, which is a very expensive system that we fortunately get here from Europe. It's a Medtronic product that we are able to apply this technology within Jamaica and to the benefit of the patient. And just for the well, he's now walking implement whatsoever, and we are grateful to God for that, and an amazing team that we have worked with at the Art of Surgery. So he's now walking on his own. So thanks again. I think it's important to just make that point and make mention of that. But again, it's always a pleasure being amongst the Kiwanians. Always wonderful to be amongst your membership, and I greet you well. Greet everyone everywhere from within the Caribbean, outside the Caribbean, who are here watching. So we're going to talk about stroke today. I'm going to hopefully try to touch on stroke. Is a vast topic. I can't tell you how vast it is. It's a very important topic, and of course, it also emerged during COVID. And I want that to be very clear that when we leave here, we have a working understanding of stroke and what we need to do. And the first thing you need to understand that stroke is an emergency. A stroke is an emergency. Just like heart attack is an emergency, a stroke is an emergency. You must act expeditiously to arrest the stroke, prevent progression of the stroke, and initiate treatment. A lot of the times, this will inevitably mean going into a facility to get like a scan, a brain scan, particularly a CT scan, to decide if it's a bleed or if it's a blockage or infarct. It's very crucial because the treatments are totally different. How you deal with a bleed is completely opposite to how you deal with an infarct or a blockage where there is no bleeding. In fact, infarcts are the most common type of strokes, about 3/4, and those are generally dealt with by putting the patient on aspirin. But without getting further into the topic, I'd like to just share my screen. I have a presentation with about 60 slides, roughly showing my ideas about stroke that I'd like to share with you. So if I may,
I'm just looking for your name. I should have put you on
Dr. Roger Hunter, I think I have.
Okay, that's D then. Let me find D.
Yes.
You can still share. It's open up DP still. You can share.
Lovely. Let me see.
Okay.
Share screen. Yeah. Off share screen. Here we go. Lovely. And here we go. Share.
Good.
That?
Yes.
Lovely. All right.
We're seeing.
Thank you so much, my Kiwanian family. Stroke. All you need to know about stroke. Well, one thing for sure, just like a heart attack, one stroke can lead to another. Stroke begets stroke. You must treat this as an emergency. A stroke is an emergency. Under no circumstance must you sit quietly and not do anything. You must act immediately because what is at stake are brain cells. Brain cells at this point cannot be replaced. They cannot be regrown. And even if you have some laboratory advances, unfortunately, it's not yet applicable to the clinical or the human experience. So once you have lost your neuron or your brain cell or your spinal cord cell, unfortunately, as it stands, that is it. There's a lot of work around stem cells, but as yet we cannot connect it up so that the stem cells grow and replace and do that exact function of that neuron that was lost. So what is the message here? Stop stroke. Stop all strokes. And if you've gotten a stroke, let us stop another one from happening. A stroke is a huge burden on society, a huge burden on the patient, a huge way to suffer. It is just not a pleasant condition at all. And I, as a neurosurgeon, have seen many, many strokes, and I would not, I'll be a happy man if I don't see another one. I'll give you a typical example here. An 84-year-old female with a 2 hours history of transient weakness in the right arm and slurred speech, right-handed person, hence the speech goes. They vomited and actually 3 days earlier had food poisoning. I must say dehydration is a factor that we have to be careful about to not miss as we move more into our, clearly summer is upon us. Slurred speech confusion was her presentation as well. She recovered within hours and unfortunately was sent home contrary to advice. She came back a few hours later with a complete paralysis. Now I hear mention one of the attractiveness to this meeting was that the perception, of course, is that given that a lot of your members are quite experienced members of society, in other words, quite senior members of society, this message is relevant to you. But what do you think about this 34-year-old administrator who is now left? This is someone I saw last week Friday with permission from the family, of course. I got her permission and she was so kind to share. 34 years old. 34-year-old diabetic. Look again. It's so important. Look at this. Completely paralyzed on the right side in a wheelchair and cannot speak. Again, one side paralysis. She's 34. Not by any stretch of the imagination, we will all agree that she is not a member of the senior wing of society. She's in fact a young single mother. Strokes occur all ages, in all ages, right through. Strokes affect all ages. Yes, we do accept that as you get older, with certain chronic conditions becoming more chronic and doing more damage, that yes, you will get more and more risk for stroke, but do not fool yourself. Diabetes is Jamaica's #1 killer, and it is causing death by stroke as well in the 20-year-olds, in the teens, in the 30-year-olds. And I want each and every member of the audience to remember this. Strokes affect all ages, including the newborn baby, including the teenager, from lupus, from diabetes, including the 30, 40-year-olds from hypertension that was not recognized, from the cholesterol that wasn't recognized. Oh, I'm young. Remember, when you tally it up, you see that quite a lot of people who died from COVID were not necessarily in the 90-year-olds. They were 30, 40-year-olds. And I'd like to just mention here that my 104-year-old nurse is now 105 who survived COVID and alive. So again, let us use this knowledge not only for necessarily to share with senior folk, but we'll share with folk of all ages. The 30-year-olds, the 40-year-olds, the 20-year-olds who have a feeling that, well, I'm going to live forever. I don't get a stroke. Sickle cell disease is common in Jamaica.
The special items will be done by Claude Edwards.
Well, congenital heart disease causes stroke in Jamaica. Trauma, we know trauma is ripping at the heart of fabric of society, cause of stroke in Jamaica. Right? So we just want to make that clear. In terms of definition, once your brain cells not working well, whether it's permanent or temporary, we attribute, and it's related to interruption of blood supply, we accept that definition as a stroke. It can also affect the spinal cord. So a stroke is a temporary or permanent interruption of nerve cell function owing to an interruption of the blood supply. So it really surrounds the cardiovascular system, the blood circulation to the brain. That's what is affected in a stroke, as well as in a heart attack, as regards to the coronary arteries. In the case of the brain, it is the cerebral arteries that are affected. It is the leading cause of death worldwide, with the combined sphere of cardiovascular disease. In other words, if we're combined stroke with heart attacks, then we are number one. We're top of the league. And of course, there are other conditions that underpin it. This is a burdensome condition. For some of you, you may recognize what this is. This, for others, you probably have never seen it in your life. But this is what's called a bed sore. This is what will happen to you if you're on a hard surface, such as a bed, and cannot turn yourself. Stroke patients are not able to move, require constant turning every 2 hours. And I recommend that all stroke patients should have a ripple mattress, or they should have what's called an electrical or automated alternating, inflating, deflating mattress that works with an electrical current. That one is a bit more efficient than the egg crate mattress. But egg crate mattress will work in case there's a power cut, it will still work. And so this is something that you need to remember. We want to prevent this condition. We want to prevent this from happening. We must move heaven and earth. How can we classify stroke? We can classify stroke according to their timing. If a stroke occurs and within minutes, within seconds, and completely recovers within 24 hours of that event, then that's referred to as a TIA, a transient ischemic attack. A TIA is a stroke. Gentle people, a TIA is a stroke. It's not a non-stroke, it is flatly a stroke. And what is important about a TIA is that it is a warning sign. Watch out. If you're fortunate enough to survive a TIA, you can bet your bottom dollar, at least 70%, 80% chance you're going to get another stroke, but one that is more permanent, one that is major, one where the symptoms last beyond 24 hours and may result in permanent loss of brain function. But a TIA is a warning sign. It's not a lucky escape. You have not escaped. It's just saying that you have recovered within 24 hours. Move quickly. That warning sign may be blindness for a few seconds, maybe weakness for a few minutes, maybe disorientation for a few seconds. Act quickly, get investigated, get onto it quickly, get that CT scan. In terms of pathological, we can look at strokes in terms of bleeding or infarcts or ischemia. So we have a type of stroke that's called hemorrhagic stroke or a bleeding stroke. This is occurring when a blood vessel has ruptured, or a weakness on the blood vessel called an aneurysm has ruptured, or another type of weakness called an AV malformation, which tend to occur in the young, that has ruptured, or something called a cavernous malformation, a cavernoma, have ruptured, or dural fistula, some congenital abnormality of blood vessel. A blood vessel has ruptured. And an aneurysm is one of the most dangerous things that can rupture inside your head. And the most dangerous aneurysm perhaps is the one that is not known, because 20% of people or 30% die on the spot once it ruptures. So you really, especially if you have a family history or you've been having headaches, you should really. But a hemorrhagic stroke typically occurs in hypertension and diabetes in small vessels that affect something called the basal ganglia in the brain, and deep structures in the brain that control movements. Those tiny vessels that rupture can lead to the classic dense one-side weakness and its loss of speech. Now, the infarct or the ischemic stroke occurs when there's a blockage, and this occurs in 75%. There's a blockage, there's a blood clot that has formed within the blood vessel. Say, for instance, inside the blood vessel, it is very irregular, it's thick, it causes a thrombus, acute clot to occur within the blood vessel. Circulation of blood, the structures beyond the blockage. The pipe is blocked. It's not ruptured, it's just blocked. And this can occur typically in high blood pressure, in diabetes, in high cholesterol. patient who is one move heaven and earth to stop smoking. Alcohol can also cause systemic lupus erythematosus, or SLE, another cause of stroke or autoimmune conditions. We can talk about COVID, and COVID vaccines can also lead to stroke, ischemic stroke. We can also have stroke occurring from medication as well. They can also thicken the blood, like oral contraceptive hormones that can thicken the blood and cause thrombosis, and that can lead to a stroke, and other medication as well. Hormone replacement therapy, HRT, can lead to stroke. So very important that we pay attention here. Some medication that are used to thin the blood can cause hemorrhagic stroke above, such as aspirin. Now there's a type which is called combined or conversion of a infarct into a bleed. That's like a combined stroke, where you have both infarction and then secondary bleeding into an infarct. That one is a very major stroke as well, and we should, because as well as there's a blockage of the blood vessel, the substance of the brain has no blood within the substance, and you are now your hand is kind of tied in terms of not being able to give blood thinners. I think we can all see this here, and what this is showing is blockage, acute blockage within the blood vessel on a slide. Here it is. You see a thick wall blood vessel, and then in the middle you see that red. Those are blood clots, the red blood cells that are clotted together and blocking the blood vessel. So this is actually a thrombus within an atheromatous plaque within a blood vessel. So blood vessels blocked by a clot inside the blood vessel. We need urgent blood thinners. Once we know that this is the basis, we need to give our aspirin quickly. We need to give our blood, other more potent blood thinners such as Clexane and heparin very quickly, and even thrombolyze these patients and do interventional radiology. Start blood thinners immediately if you know that the stroke is an infarct. If you know this is an infarct and not a bleed. And the only way you can comfortably know that is not by examination, but by investigation. In other words, a CT scan. And I want to use this medium to highlight that the government of Jamaica has a clear duty, and the rest of the Caribbean, and I'd say all governments of the world, have a duty to ensure that a CT scan is readily available within an hour to all members of its population, provided that no major catastrophe emergency is happening. So for instance, in Jamaica, we should have had at least a CT scan in every single parish or district hospital. So for instance, St. Anne's Bay should have a CT scan, Princess Margaret, Port Antonio. I can list them all out, but the point must be made that a CT scan must be available in every single parish hospital. That is number one for all organs of government, to make sure that way we will save lives. Remember now, a CT scan is also vital for trauma. So not only will it help to reduce the stroke mortality by allowing us to know where there is an infarct so that we can give blood thinners, but for instance, to scan the brain if there's a blood clot from trauma or a motor vehicle accident, that the neurosurgeon can operate and can remove the blood clot, or if it's a relatively minor head injury, and the patient can therefore then be spared a trip into Kingston and can be safely monitored locally. So it is a vital emergency tool. And I would make an appeal using this audience to say that this must be a priority for any government that is in charge of healthcare in Jamaica. A CT scan in every parish hospital, it will absolutely improve the management of stroke. Blood vessel spasm. Sometimes from a hemorrhage, you can get the vessel going into spasm. In that case, you cannot give blood thinners. That's usually from a ruptured aneurysm. Where aneurysms rupture, you do not give blood thinners, but spasm of the blood vessels can occur, in which case you give antispasmodic medication such as nimodipine. 75% of strokes are what we call infarcts, and aspirin, heparin, and thrombolysis is what we give once we prove that there is no bleeding inside the brain. Sometimes there is massive swelling and you need to give a decompressive craniotomy. I cannot tell you how high the stakes are This patient sadly died today, in fact, a few hours ago. She had multiple strokes and even had secondary seizures. And here it is what we're seeing. The patient has decorticate rigidity with the flex at the elbows, flex at the wrists, flex in the fingers, not communicative, and have to be fed by a tube into the stomach. This is not a pleasant way to live. And if you look very carefully, you'll see on the right-hand side here, a dressing being applied to a deep bed sore in the region of the greater trochanter, what's called trochanteric ulcer. Sadly, this patient died today. Stroke begets stroke after multiple strokes. Let us try and prevent blood clots in blood vessels. Let us try to diagnose. Hemorrhagic strokes. No blood thinners are allowed. If there is bleeding in the brain, do not give blood thinners. What do blood thinners do? Thin the blood and promotes more bleeding. So if you already have bleeding inside the substance of the brain, which would be diagnosed on a CT scan typically, then giving blood thinners is akin to sending that patient into a greater degree of distress and worsening the condition. So that's why a CT scan is absolutely needed in every single parish hospital in Jamaica. And a CT scan is, you need at least 3 CT scans at KPH and at least 2 CT scans at Bustamante Children's Hospital. This is a basic tool of medicine. It is not a pie in the sky dream. It's a basic tool. And if the $14 billion were used instead of isolating COVID, we could have easily have gotten more than enough CT scans for every parish hospital. But perhaps the voice that said that we can't stop the spread of COVID was not listened to, but it is what it is. Ruptured blood vessel, so you have bleeding within the substance of the brain, that's a hemorrhage. We need the CT scan to tell us if there is bleeding. If there's bleeding, do not give blood thinners. See, bleeding, we need to know as well, because we can stop bleeding by operating or by sealing the blood vessel that's leaking on the inside. It's really important to know. And again, the CT scan, which by the way got the Nobel Prize, is a key element to managing stroke. A CT scan is fairly affordable for most patients in terms of cost. The problem is there's not a CT scan in every parish. Most CT scans are privately owned and operated. We need the government to step into this role and provide more CT scans right across the health sector. A subarachnoid bleed. This is a special type of stroke. This is where there's bleeding more around the surface of the, underneath the surface of the brain, underneath this brain, in what's called the basal cisterns, below the brain. This is a hell of a stroke, one of the worst of the stroke, the worst of the worst. It only accounts for about 5% or less of strokes, but accounts for 20% of stroke mortality. Once you've had a subarachnoid bleed, you're up against it. Only a 10% chance of going back to work. 40% die, 20% die on the spot. It is a horrendous condition. We must move heaven and earth to treat this condition. And President Joe Biden had 2 of these aneurysms clipped in 1989, and he's a survivor of the subarachnoid bleed. And one will say he does have a little bit of residual issues. As you know, the tendencies there when you listen to his speaking. But it's amazing that he's managed to live so long, and that is down to emergency brain surgery where we put a clip across the aneurysm. Nowadays, this type of stroke is 90% of them are sealed by putting platinum coils on the inside of the blood of the ruptured aneurysm. This is heralded by a massive headache, the worst headache in your entire life, worse than labor pain, worse than kidney colic, kidney stone. It is just a massive headache. Jamaicans, time and time again. I don't know, your Barbadian friends can tell us what they call it, but in Jamaica we say, boy, a duppy lick you. You feel like a duppy lick you at the back of your head. You don't know what hit you. You don't see no one, don't see no massive pain and artery, and it sends massive blood under high force under the surface of the brain and spews right to the back of the brain, right into the neck, and that causes horrible neck pain, horrible headache, and 20% die on the spot. Typically ruptured from an aneurysms. AV malformations can also cause this type of bleed. Do not give blood thinners. Do not give blood thinners if there's bleeding in the brain. Do not give blood thinners if there's bleeding in the brain. Do a CT scan immediately. Do a CT scan immediately to diagnose if this is an infarct or a bleed. This should be done within an hour, ideally within half an hour of the event. Now, I think that message is well taken by now, right? So we have two types, infarcts and bleeds. We need a CT scan to tell which one is which. And for infarcts, we want to give blood thinners. For the bleeds, we want to not give blood thinners, but to seal the bleed, to stop the bleed and prevent the bleed from recurring as soon as possible. And that was my activism in Northeast London, to the immigrant section of London, where we had to wait 4 days, which is unbelievable. 4 days. If you had a subarachnoid bleed, you're waiting 4 days. Whereas in the posh side of West London, you're getting treated within 1 to 2 days. And we said that was not acceptable. So fortunately now, we go to Newham, Stratford, East, for those who are familiar with East London, then if you have a subarachnoid hemorrhage and you're taken to hospital, then you'll be treated within 1 to 2 days maximum. Moving on, causation, all strokes. This total pathological, these conditions underlie a lot of the strokes that we have, or most of the strokes. Diabetes mellitus, Jamaica's #1 killer, hands down. Nearly 3,000 Jamaicans die every year from diabetes mellitus. It is a killer. And one of the mechanisms by which it kills us is by causing a stroke. It also causes kidney failure, bad infections, blindness. It causes heart attacks. Diabetes is no joke. Hypertension, another killer. They call it the silent killer. The blood pressure is sky high, but you know not. Therefore, every household in Jamaica must have a digital blood pressure machine. And the best time to read your blood pressure is 6 a.m. in the morning and 6 p.m. in the afternoon. That's when your blood pressure tends to be naturally the highest. And that is the best gauge for your blood pressure. And it's better to take your blood pressure at home rather than at doctor's office or at the hospital, because we know just a trip to the doctor can raise your blood pressure for various reasons. Healthcare is not cheap. And of course, you don't want bad news. Sometimes, unfortunately, the news is not too good. But take your blood pressure at home and you get a better reading. And 130 or less, the systolic pressure should not be above 130. And the diastolic blood pressure, the bottom one, should not be above 80. So ideally, your blood pressure should be like 127 to 180. That's the sort of blood pressure I want all of us, each and every one of us here, to have. If not, then we need to lose weight, start to exercise, cut our salt intake, cut our sugar intake, stop smoking, control our cholesterol, and let us reduce our blood pressure. But overweight is definitely linked with high blood pressure. Although not everyone who is overweight has high blood pressure, but we know there is a link there. Excess salt intake as well. High cholesterol, this can lead to stroke. Even if you do everything well, you don't smoke, you eat a vegetable diet, you exercise. Unfortunately, like my friend, a colleague who is now living in the States, he had a heart attack when he was exercising. Committed no sin. He ate healthy, he didn't smoke, he didn't drink. All that was wrong with him was that he had an inherited hypercholesterolemia, and that unfortunately led to a heart attack, and he only had about 30% function of his heart. And another colleague of mine, sadly, who we buried last year, who had multiple heart attacks over 10 years, again, from familiar inherited hypercholesterolemia. Cholesterol, high cholesterol, 5.8 and above, that's a no-no. You have to be on statins, you have to lower cholesterol. Sometimes exercise is not enough. Sometimes you have to just take tablets. And a wonderful study was published recently. Statins cause a lot of problems. In fact, statins save lives. Approximately one life is saved every 40 out of every 40 or 50 who took the statins. And the side effects were overemphasized. In fact, after long term being on statins, they are found to be very safe, be it atorvastatin, be it Crestor, Lipitor, being rosuvastatin. These are widely available, and I think they are all covered. The top three are covered under the NHF. 1, 2, 3, diabetes, hypertension. To get those NHF cards filled out and get your benefit, whether you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 90 years old. They all would be covered under the NHF, and a reduction in the cost. So these very expensive medication, but they are life-saving medication. Smoking, unfortunately, this is not covered under the NHF in terms of things that are quitting from nicotine. But a community, we are in a community here. We must support our brothers and sisters who are battling the habit of smoking. Stop smoking is the best thing you can do for your health. Every study shows that, and smoking is a major cause of stroke, be it ruptured aneurysms, be it ruptured blood vessels in the head, be it blockage or occlusion or infarct. It also causes heart attack. So I know that this is somewhat of a sermon, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be honest with you. Smoking is really, really bad for your health. And 50 years ago, doctors were advocating smoking, good for the nerves, good for pregnancy and good for this and good for that. And it took a long time for doctors to accept that smoking is really bad for you. I, in fact, had a generational battle between my professors, my senior consultant, who had the habit of smoking, and I am a young doctor telling them to stop smoking, so you can see where the difficulty that I had in my career there. It wasn't well received at all, but unfortunately, they have died, unfortunately, from lung cancer or stroke. So I plead with you to desist from smoking. Obesity is, again, not everybody who's overweight is necessarily unfit, but it is linked with a lot of problems. It's linked with diabetes, it's linked with hypertension, it's linked with cholesterol, linked with stroke and heart attack. So losing weight and getting your body mass index below 27, ideally 25 or below is good. Of course, not too low, not below 20, but certainly below 30. If your BMI is 35, you really should be doing something about it. Lack of exercise is also another no-no. Exercise is a wonderful thing. Exercise is as good as medication in combating depression. Exercise is as good as a lot of medication in controlling like mild and early diabetes, mild and early hypertension, and low levels of cholesterol rises. Exercise is a wonderful tool. And unfortunately, this was curtailed during COVID, but fortunately now the government has logged back onto the message, and they're now proponing and touting exercise. But exercise is a valuable tool, and I commend. And if we can do 30 minutes of exercise 3 times a day, no, 3 days a week, that is in fact a wonderful thing. Even 15 minutes of exercise a day, it's helpful. A wonderful, wonderful tool. And for those in committed relationships, then romantic exercise is also very good. Poor diet. Too much refined starch, too much of it, too much salt, too much fat, too much starch. In fact, the very reason that we're brought here to till the soil and to plant sugarcane is actually now found to be bad for us. And today we saw a ruling where Kellogg's, unfortunately, they buck up into the High Court that now has a ruling on the matter that these frosted sugary flakes from Kellogg's should be banned, and they're banned from the UK, and they should be banned from Jamaica. There's no place for these high sugary things in our, and in fact, you know that these sugars are associated not only with stroke, but they're also associated with cancer. It must never be the case that green veg are more expensive than cheap rice and wheat, than cheaper rice and wheat. So let us focus on really getting our policies correct, and let us get these impact labels on these highly sugary content, highly salt content, these high cholesterol too much saturated fats. Let's get these labels on and let us get healthier. Stress. How can I tell you about this word, stress? Stress, what can I say? Everybody knows what stress is. And you see it, just walk the other way. That's all I can tell you. You see stress coming, walk the other way. It's an excessive emotional disturbance, prolonged, which may be visible or invisible. You know, people bottle it in and say, oh, yeah, man, we're not stressed, me all right. But deep down, you're quite stressed. Talk to each other. Let us gather. Let's not forsake the gathering of our brothers and sisters, because within this, we can bear each other's burden. High stress leads to high steroid levels, leads to diabetes, hypertension, obesity, cancer, low immunity, insomnia, all sorts of things that are bad for you. So see stress and leave it alone. If you lose your money, your house, you have your life, give thanks to God, because where there's life, there's hope. You have your health, give thanks to God. Don't take it for granted. Stress is just the reaction to things that go bad. Let us have a positive mindset. In middle, if you know, in Ukraine, it's so ironic to see folks just getting on with their lives as if nothing's happened, because worrying is not going to help you. What does it help by worrying? What does it help? But only make us sicker. So let us not worry, but let us try and ease our burden. Guess what? Poor oral hygiene. We said a lot about this during COVID, but poor oral health leads to stroke and heart attack. Rotten teeth leads to COVID. It also leads to stroke and heart attack. So please get those dentures properly fitted. Let us clean our dentures. Let us get those bad teeth out. It's better we don't have them in than out. And let us make sure visit our dentist or dental health center where possible at least twice a year. Let us do regimented oral hygiene, floss, brush, Listerine, at least 2-3 times a day. Regimented oral hygiene. And again, here smoking comes in. Smoking, of course, is a leading factor for poor oral health, as well as diabetes and hypertension. But it is in fact a vicious cycle that poor oral health can lead to stroke and other terrible conditions. I'm going to do about 4 slides here. What are the symptoms of stroke? Everybody must have some idea. Slurred speech. Person is become incomprehensible or slurred speech. Must be able to recognize that. And I'm not talking if somebody's drunk or inebriated or intoxicated. Weakness of the arm, leg weakness, twisted face, loss of sight, partial or complete loss of sight, maybe temporary or permanent. Neck pain, yes, with carotid stenosis or subarachnoid bleed. Headaches of all types. Nausea, vomiting, drowsiness, seizures, loss of awareness, loss of memory, ringing in the ear, tinnitus, vertigo, you're spinning like a gig, blurred vision, subarachnoid bleed, thunderclap headache like the duppy lick you, mild headache, moderate headache, protracted headache. Remember, patients with brain bleed, general practitioner's office, you will think, oh, it's not so serious, when in fact it's actually life-threatening. Do not take headaches lightly. If you have headaches that are out of the ordinary, not used to having headaches, and all of a sudden you're having headaches, and maybe a couple glasses of water doesn't help, because dehydration, we know, can lead to headaches. If after drinking a few cool glasses of water, the headache still persists, my friend, go and get it checked out. You may actually save your life. Incontinence, confusion. Headache can be a sign of a bleeding blood vessel or a sign of a larger stroke to come. Please. Symptoms: paralysis, deafness, numbness, burning in a body part. These are some of the symptoms. Who to refer to neurosurgery with stroke? All strokes, all TIAs, all strokes. Best, all neurosurgeons should have vascular competence, because guess what we know about the brain? Refer all TIAs, transient ischemic attack. I see all strokes. Neurosurgery is, I would say, perhaps the most wide specialty in medicine. You have to know so many areas and to be fairly good at it, fairly decent at them. All carotid stenosis, no matter the degree, treat all stenosis 60% or higher. Carotid stenosis can be easily diagnosed with an ultrasound. Quick ultrasound of the neck can see the blockage. All strokes should have carotid ultrasounds. Treat all symptomatic cirrhosis. where other causes can't be found. Investigations, you should be telling me this by now. A CAT scan, a computer axial tomography scan, a CT scan, the Nobel Prize winning scan, which needs to be in every parish hospital. A CT scan, emergency. This is an emergency tool. Get quickly, within 30 minutes, within an hour. We need to know if there is a bleed or an infarct, whether or not to give blood thinners or to withhold blood thinners. That is the question, and we need to answer this question no later than 3 hours. Because, for instance, if there is an infarct, we can give a drug called a thrombolytic drug that can completely melt away the blood clot. But we must not give that thrombolytic drug if 3 hours have passed with the stroke. This is an example of a CT scan of some of the patient, of case we mentioned, who came in and the CT scan was said to be normal, but the person had symptoms. They had slurred speech and arm weakness. Even if the CT scan is normal, then you need to move on next to a CT angiogram and look at what the CT angiogram showed. Complete blockage, near complete blockage right here. You see the cursor of the carotid, internal carotid artery on this side, on the left side. The right one was still okay. Look at the left one, completely blocked. Emergency. Here's one that we saw recently as well. Look, bilateral blood here. One, and atherosclerosis the blood vessels of our neck, and that can lead to stroke. And these type of stroke are preventable. They are reversible. We can do something about them. We can prevent massive strokes. If we diagnose, once we diagnose and the confusion is 60% or higher, you must have surgery. You must have stents. You must have something. Blood thinners are not going to be enough. You must open up the blood vessel and remove that clot. You must remove that clot. Carotid endarterectomy, which I do, is the most common operation performed in the States. Until we had the NASET study, which showed that we didn't need to do those or less.
Larry Cephas, can you mute your microphone?
Hello.
We lost the presenter.
Okay, it's missing.
We have an MRI hospital, an MRI scan either at Maypen or Mandeville Hospital, and an MRI scanner at KPH, and an MRI scanner at Bustamante. These are not pie in the sky. These are just basic tools that the government must provide for society. This example of the MRI shows narrowing right here, the stricture in the neck, blockage. So not all strokes are the tiny vessels. This stroke, if you watched CVM last week, Tuesday, you'd have seen me talk about the stroke, and you heard about a patient testifying that he had a blockage in the neck. Very narrow stenosis. I think everybody can see here the fairly horizontal line. That's a blockage, a fairly focal blockage right there in the neck. Ultrasound are beautiful. Here's an ultrasound that I did. I do portable ultrasounds. I carry my ultrasound around, and you can see here, unfortunately, somebody who was attempted strangling led to a blood clot in the neck, and you can see the blood clot here. You can see the color flow, the blood flowing around this blood clot, sticking out like perhaps like looks almost like the face of a rabbit or mouse or face. But this is a blood clot in the wall of the blood vessel that should not be there. Easily diagnosed on duplex ultrasound. Strokes are emergencies. They are brain attack. And if you have a little bleed, a little stroke, it can be a sign for something big to come. Do not ramp with it. Don't joke with it. Act quickly. We know, just like heart attack, you must act quickly. You must act quickly. Duplex Doppler ultrasound or carotid, I can't praise this enough. CT angiogram is ideal when you want to see the balance of urgency, something that's quick and it can quickly diagnose stenosis. MRI scan is highly sensitive. Digital subtraction angiogram, catheter angiography is where you're actually doing interventional study. You're going to do something interventional. Either you're going to unblock it with a stent, or you're going to thrombolize, or you're going to put coils in to see the bleeding. Here is an example of a carotid endarterectomy where we prepare to unblock the big carotid artery in the neck. The brain gets 20% of every time the heart pumps, 20% goes to the brain. If it's blocked, is a massive problem. Here it is that we see the common carotid artery dividing into the internal carotid, external carotid, and the internal carotid artery. And right here where the cursor is, we're seeing evidence of a plaque. When we open it, here it is, an on-table angiogram is done, and you can see the blockage right here. You can see the blockage in the internal carotid artery. That's a no-no. So we proceed to surgery. At surgery, again here, you know, speed this up a little bit, turn the right way around, and you see the block right here. Onto the angiography, we pioneered this. The first time it was done at Medical Associates, we pioneered that then. Right, unfortunately, no longer have a CRM at Medical. So here it is now. We open the same blood vessel and look what we're finding. You tell me if this does not look like cooking oil. That's kind of congealed. This is exactly what happened. The same extra saturated fats that you eat too much of. We eat the KFC, the Wendy, the Burger King, the Popeyes. I don't want to single out any. I want to pick all of them in these fast foods, high saturated fats. You have to be careful of them. Everybody must know their cholesterol. Everybody must know their blood pressure. Everybody must know their sugar levels. Everybody must know their weight. This is not the time. We got 3 very loud warnings. One from Chick-fil-A, one from Zig-V, and now the loudest of all warnings, one from COVID. People who have diabetes, obesity, hypertension, that's not controlled, that's not diagnosed, those are the folks that do the worst in COVID. You cannot have this building up in your neck and you don't know. You cannot have it. You have to know. This is not the time where we don't know. So we took out this plaque, and inside this plaque, you will see that little reddish appearance. When we cut it open, there you go, boom, a blood clot, a blockage right inside the plaque. The plaque fissured, thrombosed, cracked, fractured, and boom, a blood clot formed and completely cutting off, leading to this type of pattern, courtesy of Dr. Jennifer Mambi Alexander, one of the leading pathologists in Jamaica, cutting edge lady. Here it is, quite blockage, massive blockage, massive blockage, massive blockage. We don't want that to happen at all. This is afterwards. Remember that little narrowing that we saw first? And here it is now. All right, we can remember this picture. Here it is. Look at this picture. Look at it now. At the end on the table, we do the CT angiogram or the art of surgery now. You can see this in Ripon Road. We do this for you. Art of surgery, excellent CRM, visualization, subtraction capabilities right there. A small bespoke hospital. We give a patch. Here it is that we stitch. You know, thank God for your mothers and grandmothers who taught you how to sew. Here it is. We stitch a plaque in, stitch a plaque on the microscopic vision. That's my thing. And we get good. So we must think fast. When you have a stroke, think fast. F-A-S-T. What's the word? Fast. Fast. Think fast. Quickly. But fast stands for, is an acronym for F, face, twisting of the face. A for the arm. S for the speech. And T for time. Less than 3 hours. We must get this wrapped up, diagnosed within 3 hours. Within 30 minutes, you should have a CT scan. Face, arm, speech, time. Rush them to the emergency department. Do not mess around with a stroke. A stroke is like a heart attack. In fact, we call a stroke a brain attack. Do not mess around. A stroke must be treated with urgency. Early treatment matters, not only for COVID, where the argument was sealed, done, and we've completed the argument. Early treatment matters in almost every aspect of medicine, and more so stroke and heart attack. Early treatment matters. If you're not sure you're having a stroke, go book an appointment, invest in your health, get a comprehensive consultation, get a comprehensive evaluation to look at your stroke risk assessment. And that can easily be done by neurological surgeons. I'm suppose cardiologists, physicians can also do that. But I do that day in, day out. That's what I do, to risk assess patients who had stroke and to prevent the stroke. We don't want no more stroke because we can't return brain cells. So we are laying down the charts, government here. Get a CT scan in every single parish hospital. And that won't cost billions of dollars. In fact, I doubt it will cost $1 billion. Get CT scan in every parish hospital. At Sablamar, at Lucy, Noel Holmes, etc., Falmouth, etc. This will save lives. Not only good for stroke, but also good for trauma. Also good for cancer. Very important for those, the least among us who can't afford it. So what must every home have? Every home must have a blood pressure machine. Check your blood pressure twice a day if possible. 6 a.m., 6 p.m., or at least once a day. Blood pressure should not be more than 130/80, no higher. Check your blood glucose level. Your fasting level in the morning should be 3.5 to 5.5. Your HbA1c level, that gives you an idea of control over the past 2 months, should be between 4 and 5.5 range. HbA1c of 6 and more, you're begging for trouble. You're looking for problems with blindness that will lead to problems with stroke and heart attack. Get your A1C level correct, in good order. A digital scale, your BMI should be less than 30. Your body mass index, 20 to 30, 25 ideally. Don't get it wrong. Get your BMI in good order. You mustn't be too thin, but certainly if your BMI is more than 30, you need to start to work out. Unfortunately, due to violence, you might not be able to go outside and work out. Just walk at the bedside. Do deep breathing exercise. Do leg lifts. Do push-ups if you are able to. Do deep breathing. Do leg lift. Do get on your tummy. Do reverse back arches. Day in, day out. For those societies where there's snow and you can't go outside, you can do exercises right at your bedside. 15 minutes can save your life. Normal readings, 98 degrees in temperature. Everyone must have a thermometer. High temperatures can lead to stroke. Heat strokes are real. Oxygen saturation. By now, you have heard the argument about O2 sat, and we're happy to have brought that argument to society, where every home must have a pulse oximeter. Costs anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. You can get them at a nearby pharmacist or online at Amazon, eBay, online, or get someone to get for you. But the pulse oximeter measure your oxygen levels, and SpO2 should be 95 to 100%. Right? Regardless of your age, you should not be down at below 90. No. I saw a young lady, a young mother last week, her oxygen saturation was down in 84%. She didn't come to me, she brought her son to me. And when I saw her oxygen saturation at 84%, I wondered why. I listened to her heart, and lo and behold, she had a huge humongous murmur. So it clearly suggests that she had an undiagnosed murmur, hole in the heart, with mixing of arterial and venous blood, leading to a reduced saturation. Immediately, I sent her off for cardiological evaluation. A pulse oximeter is a life-saving tool. It's relatively affordable. It should be in every home. Again, your blood pressure machine, your glucometer machine, your digital scale, your thermometer, your non-contactless thermometer, and your pulse oximeter. Cholesterol requires blood taken twice a year. It should be off and get your blood test. You can do it if you're yearly executive or twice yearly. But your cholesterol level should be somewhere between 4 and 5.5. Certainly not more than, should be less than 6. Infarct versus a bleed. Bleed, immediate neurosurgery consult. Infarct, immediate neurovascular consult. 2 aspirins if there's a blockage. 2 aspirins right away. Heparinize, thrombolize. Get neurosurgery standby. These are at the hospital level. This is after a CT scan is done. If there's carotid, you scan the carotid as well. Make sure the carotid arteries in the neck are also scanned. Ask the doctor, did you scan the carotid artery? Did you scan the carotid artery? Not only the cerebral arteries, did you scan the neck? This is the plaque. How much does it look like KFC? Do you look quite fatty? That's literally what was removed from inside the blood vessel. Guess what you can do? Once you've had a stroke, you can prevent a second stroke by your diet, by your exercise, stop smoking, stress control, get your health checked, invest in your health. Do not treat your health as a Cinderella. Yes, I know health costs are high, but prevention is better. Prevention is always better. You buy a new car, you get it, nothing is wrong with the car, you have to get it checked every 3 months. Much more, how much more so should you not also get your bodies checked? Not because you're 90, so can't bother with that. No, we can live. I think that we're not living to our actual true potential, that we should be living easily to 150 years old. That's my view. Perhaps I'll be contradicted, etc. But we really are not living to our true potential. I think that we're dying too early. That's my view. But if primary prevention fails, early intervention is best. Call neurosurgery immediately. Surgery experience is more important for outcomes. Don't be afraid to inquire. An independent investigation specialist institutions, outcomes, all of these are important. To ask the question, if you had a stroke, something go wrong with you, you're better now, but something was wrong. Ask the question, why was I confused? Why was I not speaking? I'm recovered now. Why? Get a neurovascular consult. And if you're not sure of your cardiovascular cerebral health, your cerebral health, your carotid health, your cerebral health, you can also get a neurovascular consult. The life you save may well be yours. Act fast. Face, arm, speech, time. Act fast, my brothers. Act fast. CT scan immediately. I hope the government is listening. This is a blood clot blocking the vessel. Please let us not wait for this to happen and then we have an acute emergency. Here's a nurse, saw her recently, she's still alive. We managed to prevent her clot for getting secondary stroke, and this is 8 years ago, and here she is still going strong. We are so pleased that this is the case. Ladies and gentlemen, here I rest. I have so much more I could say to you, but for the interest of time and questions, I will yield at the moment and I'll stop sharing my screen. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Hunter. Wow. I think what I liked it to the persons online, because it was so much to absorb. That we are quite happy to make the video available. I can tell you, it will be up in about another day or two, and you can all go to our YouTube channel. It's called KCOK for Kiwanis Club of Kingston. That's the KCOK YouTube channel, and you will be able to find this. So what you couldn't keep up with, because there really has been a lot of information. I need to watch it.
DP Stu, we're not hearing you. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can somebody indicate if they're hearing me loud and clear?
Hearing you loud and
Hearing you.
Hearing you, hearing you.
I think DP Stu is
All right,
trying
let me
to
use.
rejoin us. Yes, you're back with us.
Let me
DP
use.
Stu.
Yeah.
Cutting out.
Let me speak on this other device. Yeah, I was just saying that you're hearing me still, right?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay. All right. I just switched device for me to use this mic. One question I could just throw in, which had to do with cholesterol level, and the person couldn't understand when the person indicated what their cholesterol level was. It was about 7.
What does that mean?
I'm speaking. That's what I'm speaking about. I'm not. Give me a chance, Trevor. Give me a chance. What I'm saying is that the person who's mentioned that their cholesterol level was about 7, but based on what her lifestyle, it would not normally be expected to be as high. And what the doctor had said then was that there are certain conditions that are hereditary. So you can have a situation where, although you're doing the right things, you just have a high cholesterol level. And that kind of situation would have to be dealt with by medication, which is available. So that was one thing. And then another thing had to do with hydration, which I kind of spoke to, because that was one of the things that struck me before when I remember the original presentation. So, but it would take a bit too long for me to go through for me to play the questions. But this is where I'd really like to end it. I have a question though because we have a couple of doctors in our club. I know Andrew is on, I know Andy is on. I would like to ask Andrew, who I think he works with the Bustamante Children's Hospital. How many CT scans are at the Bustamante Children's Hospital? Can you tell me, Andrew? Or is he still on? Okay, maybe he's not on. Andy, Andy, are you on, Andy? Am I being heard? Just checking.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I was just trying to see if I could get some feedback as to what was the state of the availability of CAT scans in our hospitals, whether, to the extent that any of our doctors who work within the system might have been able to share. But if that is not available, then I just say thank you for listening, and I hand it back to President Stephen. I just want to make one little point. Why I had to interrupt the presentation is because I'm playing the tape. I am not able to, at the same time, check when mics are open. It would interrupt the flow. So I had to stop the tape and ask you all and appeal to you to keep your mics closed. And then, and even to speak, I had to stop sharing screen. That's how it is. Anyway, President Stephen, back to you.
Thank you, DP Stu. And thank you for that very informative presentation. And this shows you that, like good wine, it ages well with time. Very relevant as it was back then as it is today. Kiwanians, thank you for your presence. We still have just a few items before we conclude the meeting. I do see Sergeant Zuri. He was on earlier. Are you still there, VP Zuri?
I am. Thank you, President Stephen.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. So this evening, I'm going to share with you about an elderly woman. You're not hearing me?
We are
Am I being heard?
No, we're hearing you. We're hearing you. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I was saying I'm going to share about an elderly woman. Her son brought her to a home. So he was So they took her on the balcony because she was awaiting him because he was going to come to visit that day. So she kept leaning to the side, and each time she leaned to the side, one of the staff members would go and prop her back up. So when her son arrived, he went and, he was kind of worried because she's in this home. So he was asking her, how is the home? How are they treating you? And she was saying, everything is good, except for one thing. These people don't even allow you to fart. And we are going to be doing, and I just realized that we're almost at the end of January, and I have not done my insurance charge. So this evening is a blanket fine of $500. That way, each member is guaranteed to pay at least once for the administrative year. So my brothers, you have been insured. Good evening.
Good evening to you also, VP Zuri. Thank you for that extraction of fines, and in the good spirit and good humor of the Sarge, we will collect the fines at the next opportunity. Now before we conclude, we do have notices and interclub opportunities, and I'd ask DLG Willie to share with us the Kingston activities that are upcoming. Over to you, DLG Willie. You're muted though, Willie. We're not hearing you so clearly.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I won't be long. Insofar as notice and announcements, I have one major one. Please note that the next DCM, that's the second quarter DCM, will be held at the Kona Mutual Auditorium, that's 2A Manhattan Road, on Sunday, February 9. Registration 9:30. Insofar as in the clubbing opportunities, the president spoke to Kiwanis Club of Barbican's 10th anniversary meeting next week, Tuesday, which is also the anniversary of Kiwanis International. We have been asked to bring a message at the meeting, and the president is making arrangements to have somebody do it for him on that evening. On Thursday, we have been invited by Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay to attend their meeting. There will be a presentation by Sinadre Montague Dwyer on the art of public speaking and the techniques to overcome stage frightness and speak with confidence. They look forward to seeing us there on Thursday. That is all notice announcement and the two interclubbing opportunities for now. President Steve, over to you.
Thank you, Secretary Willie. We do have visiting clubs who are online with us. I will now open the opportunity for any club that would like to share with us activities or announcements from their club. Please simply open your microphone, identify your position and your club, and share it with the audience that we have now. Any Kiwanian clubs with any announcements?
Good evening again.
Good evening.
This is VP Omar.
Hello, VP Omar.
We are North St. Andrew. North St. Andrew. We're having a fete on March 2nd. Sunday, March 2nd. It's between us and the Lions Club. And we're inviting everybody to come and be a part of it. It's in the what's it called again? The orchard, the Bagwalk Orchard. And it's on the it starts about 12 to 8 p.m. Between 10 and 8 p.m. It for those who have been there before, because we had it before. For those who have been there before, it's a very nice Sunday evening thing. Get together. And nice food, nice little drive to Bagwalk. And it's always an enjoyable time for those who attend. So we're encouraging everybody to come and support. The cost is $7,000 per person. Wayne was in the already cause. Thank you.
Thank you, DP Omar.
Can contact the DP DP Derek for tickets and President Kenton as well.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, all of us should be all of us have tickets for sale. So all of us will have tickets for sale. So you can contact anybody from North St. Andrew.
Okay. Anybody from North St. Andrew has tickets for this, and
Yeah,
that's
man.
this Sunday, right?
No, man.
No.
March 2nd.
Oh, March.
March
Sorry,
2.
I got the date
March
wrong.
2nd.
Oh,
March
so
2nd.
you're starting the promotion from early
Yes, man. Because we want everybody to come.
to roll out. Duly noted. Duly noted. Thank you. You'll get our support. Any other Kiwanis Club has any event or announcement? Now is your opportunity.
Good evening.
Good evening, Sharnet. Go ahead. You have the floor.
All right, good evening. Also, we Kingston Kiwanis Club of Friends Across the Border will be showcasing the play that Basil Dawkins play, First Lady, on Saturday, January 18. Please come and join us. You can contact DPP Paulette for tickets.
Okay. Yes, it's a good play. Our club also had a benefit performance on the 7th. So if you liked it, you can go and see it a second time. And those who haven't seen it, I would recommend it. It's a very current and funny play that will be a nice evening out, and you're supporting Kiwanis at the same time. So thank you, Shernet. Any other clubs quickly with announcements? Going once, going twice. If not, thank you very much. Usually we have a thought of the week with DP Marcel, but I do not see Marcel online. So we are running a bit late. So I will take this opportunity to conclude the meeting. Thank you everybody for turning out. Hope that you learned something. As DP Stu mentioned, if you'd like to revisit some of the information, you can just visit Kiwanis Club of Kingston's YouTube channel, and the presentation will be there for your information. On that note, the only thing I left to do is to raise a toast. Those of you who may have a glass nearby, or a cup. First of all, to Kiwanis International and Jamaica Land We Love. Cheers. And this formally terminates the club meeting of Kiwanis Club of Kingston for today, January 14th.